Where's George? Well, I'm headed northwest to Alaska, different from that famous song by Johnny Horton, North to Alaska, that had Sam McCord headed north from Seattle in the year of '92. From upstate New York, it's pretty much a straight northwest shot, and the year is 17. That's 2017. This is a bitter trip, sweet trip for me. It's because my bride, my best friend and soulmate, isn't with me, as she has been in our exploration of the other 49. This is a trip to complete the quest we started on all those many years ago. Many of these states were visited with my wife and our 3 wonderful boys. The boys still talk about their road trips and canoe trips. They are raising their families in much the same way, which makes us very proud. Anyway, I decided to finish the 50-state quest and purchase the Boomerette for the Odyssey, an 18.5-foot travel trailer pulled by my Silverado pickup. The trip is going to be a 10 to 12,000 mile round trip, and it's going to be exploring our 49th state, Alaska. I want to go as far west, north, and south as Alaska highways will take me, and I want to take you right along with me. We will travel from the Kenai Peninsula and the Homer Spit up the Dalton Highway to Dead Horse and Prudhoe Bay, which is around 300 miles north of the Arctic Circle. In between, I want to travel most, if not all, of Alaskan major highways. First and foremost, I want to travel the 1,400 plus miles of the famed historical Alcan, better known as the Alaskan Highway, which was crudely bulldozed from Dawson Creek, British Columbia, to Delta Junction, Alaska in 1942 after the outbreak of us entering World War II. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers were ordered to construct this crucial highway north. On March 9, 1942, construction began, and on October 25th of that same year, 1942, the year was completed. Today, the road is developed in many areas into a very cruisable road. However, as it continues north, the permafrost in the ground causes massive upheavals and washouts. Other highways beckon. In addition to the Alcan and Dalton highways, the Richardson Highway is designated as an Alaska scenic byway, connecting the port of Valdez and Fairbanks. Seaward Highway, connecting Anchorage to Seaward, this highway has been given 3 designations: National Forest, Scenic Byway, All-American Road, and Alaska Scenic Byway. The Sterling Highway, connecting the western half of the Kenai Peninsula with Anchorage in the north, is also the furthest connecting highway to the west and south, ending at Land's End on the Homer Spit. And of course, the Denali Highway, just crammed full of scenic views and 110 miles of gravel. These highways are only some of the scenic Alaskan highways to choose from. I remember as a young boy watching on television and President Eisenhower presiding over the inclusion of Alaska into the Union as the 49th state. It was January 3rd, 1959. We were talking about 1959. Here's a quick update for those of you who may or may not have been around yet. Ford held the Galaxy 500. Fidel Castro came to power, and NASA announced the original Mercury 7. Hawaii also that year joined as the 50th state. And, we'll go back a little bit and say that a new home back then was $12,000. A new car was $2,200. Gas was $0.25, and oh yeah, lady stockings were $1. Not long ago, a long time ago, not long ago, not really. Alaska's been coming what it is for millions of years, not just the last 60 years. Although there was a major earthquake in 1964 on Good Friday that did change landfalls and directional flow of rivers. The erosion and carving of the river valleys by glaciers has been going on for eons. I have done my homework, and I'm ready to go. I've studied topography, history, and geology. I'm raring to go, and I want to have you right by my side as I explore the 49th state. I'm sure that my perception of this great state of Alaska will be different from reality, but I can't wait to find out what reality is. Well, northwest to Alaska. Leaving our home in upstate New York, we headed out towards Erie, Pennsylvania, where we pick up I-Interstate 90, and we head to Chicago, where we pick up I-Interstate 94, which we take across the country all the way to Minot, North Dakota. In Minot, North Dakota, we pick up US 83, and we're headed for the Canadian border.
the Canadian border crossing in West Hope, we were treated extremely well. We declared a 12-gauge shotgun, and we declared that we had bear spray, and we were very politely treated. Well, we drive up through Manitoba and then Saskatchewan, and we see literally millions of acres of canola fields, one of Canada's major cash crops. Canola is harvested once its seeds have met maturity and have dried to a point that it retains less than 10% moisture. Well, after 6 days and almost 3,500 miles, we reached the picturesque and historically significant city of Dawson Creek, British Columbia, and the start of the Alcan Highway. While the city has changed a lot in the last 76 years since the start of WW2, when it was a major staging area, it still is a major supply and logistics center for the southern terminus of the famed Alaska Highway. Dawson Creek has RV parks, hotels, gas stations, restaurants, and grocery stores. Take time to see the Walter Wright Pioneer Village, the Alaska Highway House, and the Dawson Creek Visitor Center. But don't miss the world's largest beaver on display as you approach the town from the south. That sure is a hell of a lot of tail. Very easy to get a campsite on the Alcan Alaska Highway. They're very plentiful. You can stay at a private park. You can stay at a public park. This one here had great views of the water and the fog as it rose up, and it was just very, very picturesque. Buffalo are plentiful along the Alcan, and you'll see herds of them. You'll see them in the road. They'll be on the side of the road. They'll be grazing. They'll be sitting down, laying down, chewing their cud. And it's great to see these animals. They are absolutely huge. Buffaloes were almost extinct by 1890, being hunted that way for their hides. And there was less than 1,000 of them estimated. Now today, there's about 500,000 of them, and they are off the endangered list. As you continue on the Alcan, and you go from British Columbia into Yukon, you go across the border several times because the border goes straight and the road goes in and out. But this is one of those points. We've seen quite a few black bear. They seem to be hungry, and they don't worry about being next to the road. This is about 30 feet from me, but I did stay on the other side to pick up just in case he decided he wanted me for lunch. As you cross over into Yukon to stay, you come to the little town of Watson Lake. And at Watson Lake, they have signpost forest. It was started by a homesick GI in 1942. He hung up his sign from his hometown, and that stuck, and it's been going on since then. And they have over 83,000 names. And the Southern Tier Expressway, that's where we started out. As we continued on from Watson Lake, heading towards Alaska, up through the Yukon, the scenery just keeps getting more and more beautiful. Whether it's a lake, whether it's a mountain, and the road curves around. It goes through the beautiful scenery that you can see here, and it is breathtaking, to say the very least. But it starts to get rough. Permafrost. That raises hob with the Alcan Highway and any highway up in the Yukon and Alaska. It means that the frost never really gets out of the ground. It's constantly causing the roadway to heave or buckle, and it can be a very rough road. I did hear my tires squeal several times as the front tires left the ground. Well, the speedometer is nearing 5,000 miles, and we have arrived at Alaska. And it's something that we had been planning for such a long time, and that sign sure looked good to us. Well, that's the end of the Alaska Highway, over 1,400 miles from Dawson Creek. And Delta Junction has a visitor center here that depicts the end of the highway, and it has a lot of exhibits on the highway and its history and how it went about being done, the engineering feat that it was.
Well, that's the first in our series of Northwest to Alaska. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you look forward and make a special point of seeing the rest of this series as we explore the great state of Alaska. And if you like what you see, remember to give George a thumbs up. Thanks a lot. I'll be seeing you again soon.